The man standing at their door could destroy everything with a single phone call. Amara knew this because she saw the color drain from both Minho and Junho's faces the moment they looked through the peephole. She'd never seen them afraid before. Not when they'd left their fortune behind. Not when they'd started over with nothing. Not even during the hardest nights when hope wouldn't stop crying and their savings were running dangerously low. But now, standing in the doorway of their modest apartment with their 6-month-old daughter in her arms, she watched two of the most powerful men she'd ever known turn back into terrified sons. "He found us," Minho whispered. Junho's hand was already on the door handle, but he didn't open it. The knock came again. Harder this time. Patient. Inevitable. Amara's arms tightened around Hope instinctively. "Who is it?" The brothers looked at each other. Then at her. And she knew. Their father. The man they'd been running from for 6 months. The Korean Mafia boss who'd built an empire on fear and loyalty. And he was standing on the other side of their door. If you missed part 1 of this story, the link is in the description. But here's what you need to know. Amara, a black maid, fell in love with Korean Mafia twins without realizing they were 2 different men. She got pregnant. They left everything, their wealth, their power, their family, to build a life with her. And for 6 months, they were happy. But now, their past has caught up with them. Hit that like button if you're already hooked, because this finale is going to be intense. 6 months earlier. Before that knock shattered their peace, they'd been happy. Genuinely, impossibly happy. That morning had started like most mornings in their new life. Minho in the kitchen, attempting to make pancakes while muttering curses in Korean every time the batter burned. Junho on the living room floor, making exaggerated faces at Hope while she giggled and grabbed at his fingers. And Amara, standing in the doorway between rooms, watching the 2 men she loved fumble through domestic life with a determination that made her heart ache in the best way. "I think they're supposed to be golden, not charcoal," she called out to Minho. He shot her a look over his shoulder. "I'm trying." "Try less heat," Junho said without looking up from Hope. "It's not complicated." "You do it then." "I'm busy being the favorite parent." Amara laughed, moving to rescue the pancakes before they became completely inedible. "You're both her favorite." "She smiled at me first this morning," Junho argued. "Because you made funny faces," Minho countered. "That's cheating." It was ridiculous. Domestic. Normal. Everything they'd never had in their old lives. The apartment was small, barely big enough for the 4 of them. The furniture was second-hand. The walls were thin enough that they could hear their neighbors arguing about whose turn it was to take out the trash. But it was theirs. Not inherited. Not bought with blood money. Theirs. Minho had found work as a financial consultant, using his education without the family name. Junho was doing security work, ironic, given what they'd left behind, but he was good at it. Amara freelanced as a translator, working from home so she could be with Hope. The money was tight. Some months, dangerously so. But they made it work. They were making it work. "Come eat before it gets cold," Amara said, plating the salvageable pancakes. Junho scooped up Hope and joined them at their small dining table. The baby immediately reached for Minho's coffee cup. "No, little one," Minho said gently, moving it out of reach. "That's not for you." Hope's bottom lip trembled. Both men immediately panicked. "Don't cry, don't cry. Here, look." Junho started making the funny faces again. Minho grabbed her favorite toy. Amara just smiled. This was her family. Chaotic. Imperfect. Unconventional. And absolutely everything she'd ever wanted. She should have known it was too good to last. 3,000 miles away, in a Seoul office that overlooked the city like a throne room, a very different morning was unfolding. Kim Tae-jin sat behind his mahogany desk, fingers steepled, expression unreadable as the private investigator laid out photographs across the polished surface. "I found them, sir." The photographs told a story. Minho carrying groceries into a run-down apartment building. Junho pushing a stroller through a park. A black woman, the maid, Tae-jin remembered with distaste, holding a baby. His granddaughter. The thought made something twist in his chest, but he didn't let it show on his face. "How long have you known?" he asked, his voice dangerously quiet. 2 weeks, sir. I wanted to be certain before I reported. Tae-jin picked up one of the photographs. The three of them together, his sons and that woman, looking happy in a way he'd never seen them look at home. Looking free. It made him sick. "They're living like peasants," he said flatly. "Yes, sir. Both are employed in ordinary positions. The woman works from home. They're raising the child together." Together. Tae-jin set the photo down carefully. "All three of them." "It appears so, sir." For a long moment, the office was silent except for the tick of an expensive clock. Tae-jin had built his empire on control. On loyalty. On the understanding that family came first, always, above personal desire or foolish notions of love. His sons had betrayed all of that. For what? A maid and a bastard child? "Sir?" The investigator shifted nervously. "What would you like me to do?" Tae-jin stood, straightening his suit jacket. "Nothing. I'll handle this myself." "You're going to them?" "They're still my sons." His voice was ice. "And they need to be reminded of what that means." He moved to the window, looking out at the city he controlled. "Prepare the jet. And have my lawyers draft severance agreements." "Severance, sir?" Tae-jin's smile was cold. "I'm giving them a choice. Come home and fulfill their duties. Or be cut off completely. No protection. No family. No safety net. And if they refuse? Then they'll learn what it means to truly have nothing." He turned back to the investigator. "And the woman will learn what happens to people who think they can steal from my family." That evening, Amara was giving Hope a bath when she heard the voices. Raised. Tense. She quickly wrapped the baby in a towel and moved toward the living room. Minho and Junho were standing by the door, speaking in rapid Korean. She caught enough to understand they were arguing about whether to open it. "Who is it?" she asked. They both turned. The fear in their eyes made her stomach drop. "Amara," Minho started. "You should take Hope to the bedroom." "Who is it?" Junho's jaw clenched. "Our father." The words hit like a physical blow. For 6 months, they'd existed in a bubble. Safe. Hidden. Free. She'd known it couldn't last forever. But she'd hoped. God, she'd hoped. The knock came again. "Open the door, boys." The voice from the other side was cultured, accented, cold. "Or I'll have building management do it for you." Minho looked at Junho. Some silent communication passed between them. Then Junho opened the door. The man who entered was not what Amara expected. She'd imagined someone physically imposing. Scarred. Obviously dangerous. Kim Tae-jin was none of those things. He was elegant. Well-dressed. Distinguished. And absolutely terrifying. His eyes swept the apartment with visible distaste. The second-hand furniture. The toys scattered on the floor. The ordinary, humble life his sons had built. Then his gaze landed on her. On Hope in her arms. Something flickered in his expression, too quick to read. "So," he said quietly. "This is the embarrassment." Amara felt Minho move closer to her side. Protective. "Father," he said carefully. "How did you find us? Did you think I wouldn't?" Tae-jin stepped fully into the apartment, and somehow the space felt smaller. "That you could just disappear and I'd simply accept it?" "We left," Junho said, his voice hard. We made our choice. You ran away like children. Taejin's eyes were cold. Abandoned your responsibilities. Your family. For what? His gaze flicked to Amara with open contempt. A maid? Don't. Minho's voice was sharp. Don't speak about her like that. I'll speak however I wish. Taejin turned to face his sons fully. You're still my blood. Which means you're still under my authority. We're adults, Junho said. We don't need your permission to live our lives. Adults? Taejin laughed, bitter and mocking. Adults don't play house in a slum. Adults don't throw away empires for temporary infatuation. This isn't temporary, Minho said quietly. No? Taejin pulled out his phone, tapping the screen. Let me show you what's temporary. He turned the phone toward them. Amara couldn't see the screen, but she saw both brothers' faces go pale. What is that? She asked. Deportation orders, Taejin said simply. For an Amara Williams. Currently in the country on a visa that expires in 3 months. A visa that won't be renewed if I make a single phone call. Amara's blood turned to ice. You can't, Junho started. I can. I have connections in immigration. Legal channels. All completely above board. Taejin pocketed his phone. She'll be deported. The child will stay here as a Korean citizen. And you too will come home. The hell we will, Junho snarled. But Taejin wasn't finished. Or, he continued calmly, I can ensure she never sees the child again. Custody battles are expensive. Especially for foreign nationals with no family support. No resources. No legal representation. We'll fight you, Minho said. With what money? Taejin gestured around the apartment. This is what you chose. Poverty. Struggle. You think you can fight me from here? Amara's arms tightened around Hope. The baby, sensing the tension, started to fuss. Taejin's eyes flicked to his granddaughter. For just a moment, his expression softened. Then it hardened again. I'm giving you one chance, he said to his sons. Come home. Fulfill the marriage arrangements I made. Take your places in the family business. And Amara? Minho asked. The woman will be compensated. Generously. She can return to her country with enough money to live comfortably. The child stays with family. No. Amara's voice cut through the room. Everyone turned to look at her. She was trembling. Terrified. But she met Taejin's eyes anyway. I'm not leaving my daughter. You don't have a choice. Then neither do you. Her voice was steadier now. Because I'll fight. I'll go to the press. I'll expose everything about your family. Every crime. Every threat. Every. Amara, Minho said quietly. Warningly. But she didn't stop. You think you can scare me by threatening deportation? I've survived worse than you. And I'll burn your precious reputation to the ground before I let you take my child. The room went silent. Taejin stared at her for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. You have spirit. I can see why my sons were drawn to you. He adjusted his cufflinks. But spirit doesn't win against power. He moved toward the door. You have 48 hours to decide. Come home. Fulfill your duties. Or lose everything. He paused at the threshold. And when I say everything, I mean everything. Your child. Your freedom. Each other. This is my granddaughter you're threatening, Minho said quietly. Taejin's hand stilled on the doorknob. Which is the only reason I'm offering you a choice at all. He looked back at them. 48 hours. Choose wisely. Then he was gone. The door closed with a quiet click. And the silence that followed was deafening. For a long moment, nobody moved. Hope was crying now, picking up on the tension. Amara automatically started bouncing her, soothing her, but her mind was racing. 48 hours. 2 days to decide their entire future. He's bluffing, Junho said finally. But he didn't sound convinced. No. Minho's voice was hollow. He's not. You know he's not. We can fight this. Legally. We can. With what money? Amara's voice cracked. He's right. We can barely afford this apartment. How are we supposed to fight a custody battle against someone with unlimited resources? Minho moved to her, his hand gentle on her back. We'll figure something out. How? She looked at him, tears streaming down her face. How do we fight this? He didn't have an answer. None of them did. They'd been living in a dream. And now reality had come knocking. And it wanted everything. The stakes have never been higher. Comment below, what would you do in their situation? Fight? Run? Take the money? And if you're invested in this family story, hit that subscribe button. This is about to get emotional. Hope finally fell asleep around midnight. It had taken hours of rocking, singing, walking circles around the small apartment until Amara's arms ached and her voice was hoarse. But now the baby slept peacefully in her crib, unaware that her entire world was about to be torn apart. Amara stood in the doorway of Hope's room, watching the gentle rise and fall of her daughter's chest. 6 months old. Too young to understand what was happening. Too young to remember this apartment. This life. Them. If they lost her. The thought made Amara's stomach turn. She moved to the living room where Minho and Junho sat on the couch, papers spread across the coffee table. Legal documents they'd printed from the internet. Custody law. Immigration regulations. Looking for loopholes that didn't exist. Anything? She asked quietly. Minho looked up, exhaustion written across his face. Nothing that helps. Junho threw down the paper he'd been reading. This is insane. There has to be a way to fight this. There is. Amara sat in the chair across from them. I take the money and leave. No. Both brothers said it simultaneously. Listen to me. No, Minho said again, firmer this time. We're not having this conversation. We have to. Amara leaned forward. Your father is right about one thing. I can't fight him. I have no legal standing here. No family. No resources. If he wants me deported, he can make it happen. Then we leave, Junho said. All of us. Go somewhere he can't reach. Where? Amara's laugh was bitter. You think there's anywhere your father's influence doesn't extend? He's connected to half the criminal networks in Asia. We'd be running forever. Then we run forever. With a baby? She shook her head. That's not a life, Junho. That's not what I want for Hope. The silence stretched heavy between them. So what are you saying? Minho's voice was quiet. Careful. That we should just give up. I'm saying maybe. Amara's voice cracked. Maybe your father is right. Maybe this was always impossible. Don't. Junho stood abruptly. Don't you dare. Look at us. Amara gestured around the apartment. We're barely making it as it is. We can't afford a legal battle. We can't protect Hope from someone with unlimited resources. And I won't let her grow up watching us struggle and fail. So you'd rather she grow up without you? Minho's eyes were bright with unshed tears. Amara couldn't answer. Because the truth was, yes. If it meant Hope was safe. Protected. Provided for. Yes. She'd give up everything. Even them. When morning came, none of them had slept. They'd sat in silence, each lost in their own thoughts, until dawn broke through the apartment windows. At precisely 9 a.m., there was a knock at the door. Not their father this time. A courier. Junho signed for the envelope with shaking hands. Inside were 3 sets of documents. The first 2 were marriage contracts. Detailed arrangements with the daughters of powerful families. Dates already set. Venues already booked. The third was a severance agreement for Amara. $5 million. In exchange for full custody rights to Hope. An assigned NDA promising never to contact the Kim family again. Amara stared at the number. $5 million. More money than she'd ever imagined having. Enough to start over. To go home. To build a life. Without Hope. Without them. Burn it, Junho said. But Minho picked up the document, reading carefully. Minho, Junho started. I'm not considering it, Minho said quietly. I'm understanding what we're up against. He set the paper down. He's thought of everything. If Amara doesn't sign, he'll tie her up in court for years. Drain whatever resources we have. And he'll still win in the end because he has infinite time and money. So we're just supposed to surrender? Junho's voice rose. I'm saying we need to be smart. Minho looked at his brother. Emotional reactions won't save our family. Then what will? Before Minho could answer, Amara stood. I need some air. Amara. Please. Her voice broke. Just, give me some space. She grabbed her jacket and left before either of them could stop her. Amara walked for an hour. Through streets she'd come to know over the past 6 months. Past the park where they took Hope on weekends. The small cafe where Minho bought her coffee every Friday morning. The life they'd built. Small. Humble. Theirs. And it was slipping through her fingers. By the time she returned to the apartment, she'd made her decision. She found Minho and Junho exactly where she'd left them. Hope was awake now, playing on a blanket on the floor between them. The baby looked up when Amara entered, giving her a gummy smile that broke her heart. I'm leaving, Amara said quietly. Both brothers looked up sharply. What? I'm taking the money. Signing the papers. Going back to the States. Her voice was steady, but tears were streaming down her face. It's the only way to protect her. No. Junho was on his feet. Absolutely not. If I leave, your father has no leverage. You go back. Marry whoever he wants. Keep Hope. Raise her with all the advantages we could never give her. Without her mother? Minho stood slowly. You think that's what's best for her? Better than watching me get deported. Better than living in hiding. Better than being loved? Junho's voice was raw. That's what you're offering her, Amara. A life without love. She'll have you both. We need you. Minho's voice cracked. She needs you. We all need you. Need isn't enough. Amara's composure finally shattered. Don't you understand? I'm the problem. I'm the reason your father has leverage. If I'm gone, you can. We can what? Junho cut her off. Go back to being his puppets? Marry women we don't love? Pretend the last year never happened? Yes. Amara shouted. Yes, exactly that. Because that's better than this. Better than fighting a battle we can't win. You don't know that we can't win. Yes, I do. She grabbed the severance agreement from the table. $5 million, Junho. Do you know what that means? It means your father knows I'll never have enough money to fight him. It means he knows exactly how powerless I am. She sank onto the couch, the paper crumpling in her hands. I'm so tired of feeling powerless. The words hung in the air. Then Minho was kneeling in front of her, his hands gentle on her knees. You're not powerless, he said softly. You're the strongest person I've ever known. I don't feel strong. Strength isn't about never being afraid. His thumb brushed away her tears. It's about being terrified and fighting anyway. I can't fight him. I can't. Then don't fight him. Junho sat on her other side. Fight with us. Not alone. Together. Amara looked between them. I don't know how. Neither do we, Minho admitted. But we'll figure it out. Like we've figured out everything else. What if we lose? Then we lose together. Junho's hand found hers. But at least we'll still have each other. Your father won't allow that. The contracts. Fuck the contracts. Junho's voice was fierce. Fuck the marriage arrangements. Fuck all of it. Amara wanted to believe them. Wanted to believe they could find a way. But belief felt like a luxury she couldn't afford. That afternoon, while Minho and Junho were both out, Minho at work, Junho at a job interview, Amara made a call. To the number on the severance agreement. A lawyer answered. I want to discuss the terms, Amara said quietly, Hope babbling in the background. Of course, Ms. Williams. What would you like to know? If I sign, when do I have to leave? Immediately. We'd arrange transport within 48 hours. Amara's throat tightened. And I'd never see her again? The agreement is very clear on that point. No contact. No visitation. A clean break. Clean. As if anything about this could be clean. I need time to think, Amara said. You have 24 hours remaining on the deadline. I know. She hung up. Looked at Hope, who was trying to grab her own feet. 24 hours. One day to decide whether to stay and fight. Or walk away and let them win. That night, Amara put Hope to bed early. She'd already packed a bag. Just in case. Hidden in the closet where the brothers wouldn't find it. She was folding baby clothes, the ones Hope had already outgrown, when she heard the bedroom door open. Minho stood in the doorway. You're packing. It wasn't a question. Amara's hands stilled. I haven't decided anything yet. Yes, you have. He stepped into the room. You've decided to leave. Minho. I can see it in your eyes. He moved closer. That look you get when you're trying to protect people by pushing them away. Amara set down the tiny onesie in her hands. What do you want me to say? That I'm scared? That I don't know what to do? That every option feels like losing? I want you to say you'll stay. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. He was in front of her now. Close enough to touch. Stay. Fight. Choose us. Your father. My father doesn't get to decide our lives anymore. His hands cupped her face gently. We do. You, me, Junho. We decide. Tears spilled over. What if I'm not strong enough? Then lean on us. The door opened again. Junho. He took one look at the packed bag. At Amara's tears. At Minho holding her. You're not leaving, he said flatly. Junho. No. He crossed the room in 3 strides. I know what you're thinking. That if you disappear, everything gets easier. That will be fine without you. You would be. We'd be destroyed. His voice was raw. Don't you understand that yet? You're not some burden we're carrying. You're not the problem we need to solve. You're the reason we left. The reason we're fighting. The reason any of this matters. Amara looked between them. 2 men who'd given up everything for her. Who were still fighting. Still here. I don't know how to do this, she whispered. Neither do we, Minho said softly. But we do it together. Junho's hand found hers. Minho's arms wrapped around her. And slowly, so slowly, the tension in Amara's body began to release. They stood like that for a long moment. 3 people holding onto each other like lifelines. Then Minho's lips brushed her temple. Junho's hand traced down her arm. And something shifted. From comfort to need. From fear to connection. I need you, Amara whispered. Both of you. I need to remember why we're fighting. Minho's answer was a kiss. Soft at first. Then deeper. Desperate. Junho's hands were in her hair, turning her face to him. His kiss was different. Fierce. Claiming. They moved together to the bed. Hands finding familiar places. Lips tracing remembered paths. This wasn't about passion. It was about reassurance. About proving they were still here. Still together. Still fighting. Minho's touch was gentle. Reverent. Like she was something precious that might break. Junho's was intense. Possessive. Like he was afraid she might disappear if he let go. And Amara? She let herself fall into them. Into the safety of their arms. Into the warmth of their love. Into the certainty that whatever came next, they'd face it together. Later, much later, they lay tangled together in the darkness. Amara between them. Minho's arm across her waist. Junho's fingers tracing patterns on her shoulder. I'm not leaving, she said quietly. She felt them both tense. You mean it? Minho's voice was careful. I mean it. She turned to look at Junho. Then Minho. I don't know how we're going to fight this. But we're going to try. Junho's hand tightened on her shoulder. Minho pressed a kiss to her hair. Together, he whispered. Together, she agreed. They've made their choice. Now comes the hard part, actually fighting back. Comment below, what do you think their plan should be? Morning came too soon. But this time, when Amara woke, she wasn't alone with her fears. Minho was already up, making coffee. Junho was on the floor doing push-ups, his way of processing stress. And Hope was babbling happily in her bouncer. Normal. Domestic. There's 18 hours left, Junho said, finishing his last rep. Amara picked up Hope, kissing her forehead. Then we need a plan. I've been thinking about that, Minho said, handing her coffee. What if we don't play his game? What do you mean? He's expecting us to either surrender or fight legally. Both of which he wins. Minho sat down. So we do neither. Junho looked up. I'm listening. We create leverage of our own. Amara frowned. How? Minho pulled out his phone, pulling up a voice recording app. I recorded everything he said yesterday. Every threat. Every illegal offer. Junho's eyes widened. You recorded father? I record everything important. Minho's expression was grim. Years of living with him taught me to always have insurance. That's... Junho started laughing. That's brilliant. And slightly terrifying. It's not enough though, Amara said. A recording won't stop him. No. But it's a start. Minho looked at both of them. We need more. Documentation. Proof of his criminal activities. Enough that if he tries to destroy us, we can destroy him right back. Mutually assured destruction, Junho said. Exactly. Amara sat slowly, her mind racing. I have something too, she said quietly. Both brothers looked at her. When I worked at the estate, I saw things. Heard things. I kept a journal. She looked down at Hope. I thought it would protect me if anything went wrong. I never thought I'd actually need to use it. What kind of things? Minho asked carefully. Financial transactions. Meetings with known criminals. Conversations about bribes and threats. She met his eyes. Enough to interest law enforcement. Maybe even international authorities. The room went quiet. If we do this, Junho said slowly, there's no going back. We'd be declaring war on our own father. He declared war on US first, Minho said. But this is different. This is. Junho ran a hand through his hair. This could destroy the entire family. Not just father. Everyone. Good, Amara said. Both brothers looked at her in surprise. I'm sorry, she said, not sounding sorry at all. But your family has built itself on fear and corruption. Maybe it's time for it to fall. Minho was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. You're right. Junho stared at his brother. You're seriously agreeing to this? I'm agreeing that our daughter deserves better than to grow up in the shadow of that empire. Minho's voice was firm. And if tearing it down is what it takes to protect her, then yes. I'm agreeing. Junho looked between them. Then at Hope, who was reaching for her feet, completely oblivious to the decision being made. All right, he said finally. Let's burn it all down. They spent the rest of the day gathering everything they had. Minho's recordings. Amara's journals. Digital evidence Junho had secretly copied years ago, just in case. By the time night fell, they had a file that could bring down one of the most powerful criminal organizations in Korea. It felt like holding a loaded gun. Dangerous. Powerful. Terrifying. Tomorrow, Minho said, we make our move. And if he calls our bluff? Amara asked. Then we pull the trigger. Junho's expression was hard. And deal with the fallout. Amara looked down at Hope, sleeping peacefully in her arms. They were about to risk everything. Their safety. Their future. Possibly their lives. But they were doing it together. And somehow, that made it feel possible. 16 hours left. Amara sat at the kitchen table, her laptop open, organizing the evidence into a single file. Recordings. Journal entries. Financial documents. Photographs. Years of corruption laid out in brutal, undeniable detail. Minho was on the phone with a lawyer, not one of his father's. An independent attorney who specialized in whistleblower protection. Junho was pacing, checking the locks on the doors for the third time. Hope slept through it all, peaceful in her ignorance. The lawyer says we have enough for criminal charges, Minho said quietly, hanging up. Money laundering. Bribery. Intimidation. Maybe even racketeering if international authorities get involved. Will they protect us? Amara asked. He says he can try. But. Minho's expression was grim. There are no guarantees. Not against someone like father. So we're gambling everything, Junho said. We already were, Amara pointed out. At least now we have cards to play. The plan was simple. In the morning, they'd call Kim Tae-jin. Present the evidence. Make their demands. And hope he valued his empire more than his pride. At precisely 8 a.m., Minho dialed his father's private number. Amara and Junho sat on either side of him, close enough to hear. The phone rang once. I assume you're calling to accept my terms, Tae-jin's voice came through, cold and certain. No, Minho said calmly. I'm calling to present ours. Silence. Then, excuse me? We have evidence, father. Years of it. Your illegal transactions. Your bribes to government officials. Your threats against business rivals. All documented. All verified. The silence stretched longer this time. You're bluffing. I'm not. Minho's voice was steady. I've been recording you for 5 years. Every meeting. Every phone call. Every time you thought you were safe to speak freely. You wouldn't dare. I already have. Minho glanced at Amara. The files are with a lawyer. If anything happens to us, if Amara is deported, if we're threatened, if we're harmed in any way, everything goes to the authorities. Korean and international. You destroy your own family? You gave me no choice. Junho leaned forward. Here are our terms. You leave us alone. All of us. No deportation. No custody battle. No threats. We disappear from your life, and you disappear from ours. And in exchange? Taejin's voice was dangerous. The evidence stays buried, Minho said. You continue your empire. We live our quiet lives. Everyone wins. That's not winning, Taejin said coldly. That's mutually assured destruction. Exactly, Amara said, speaking for the first time. Which means you can't touch us without destroying yourself. She heard Taejin's sharp intake of breath. You think you're clever, girl? I think I'm a mother protecting her child, Amara said. Which makes me more dangerous than you ever expected. Is that a threat? It's a promise. Touch my family, and I'll burn your empire to the ground. Every asset. Every connection. Every dirty secret you've spent decades hiding. The line crackled with tension. You have 12 hours, Taejin said finally. Meet me. Face to face. If you're going to threaten me, have the courage to do it in person. Where? Minho asked. The estate. Noon. All three of you. He paused. Bring the child. Absolutely not, Junho started. Bring the child, Taejin repeated, or there's no negotiation. The line went dead. We're not taking hope there, Junho said immediately. We don't have a choice, Minho said. Like hell we don't. He wants to see his granddaughter. Amara's voice was quiet. That's what this is about. Both brothers looked at her. He's been threatened with losing everything, she continued. His sons. His legacy. His family line. He wants to see what he's fighting for. Or what he's fighting against, Junho said darkly. Either way, Amara said, if we don't go, we lose our leverage. He'll assume we're bluffing. Minho ran a hand through his hair. She's right. I don't like this. Neither do I. Minho looked at his brother. But we're out of options. They're walking into the lion's den. With their baby. Comment below, is this brave or reckless? And make sure you're subscribed because this confrontation is about to get real. The drive to the estate took 40 minutes. 40 minutes of tense silence, broken only by Hope's occasional babbling from her car seat. When they pulled up to the gates, Amara's stomach dropped. She hadn't been back here in over a year. The last time she'd walked through these gates, she'd been invisible. A maid. Nothing. Now she was returning as an equal. Or at least, as someone who refused to be powerless anymore. The gates opened automatically. They parked in front of the main house, a massive structure that screamed wealth and power. Stay close, Minho said quietly. Both of you. They entered together. The house looked exactly as Amara remembered. Pristine. Cold. More museum than home. Kim Taejin was waiting in his study. The same room where he'd probably made 1,000 deals. Ended 1,000 careers. Destroyed 1,000 lives. He stood when they entered. His eyes went immediately to Hope. The baby was awake, looking around with wide, curious eyes. For a long moment, Taejin just stared at her. She has your mother's eyes, he said to Minho. Minho's jaw tightened. Don't what? Acknowledge my granddaughter? Taejin moved closer. May I? Amara's arms tightened instinctively around Hope. Please, Taejin said, and for the first time, his voice held something other than cold authority. It held longing. Slowly, Amara extended Hope toward him. Taejin took the baby carefully, like he wasn't sure how to hold her. Hope stared at him for a moment. Then smiled. Something flickered across Taejin's face. Pain, maybe. Or regret. She's beautiful, he said softly. She is, Junho said. Which is why we're not letting you take her from us. Taejin's expression hardened. He handed Hope back to Amara. Sit. They sat. Taejin remained standing, the power position. You came here to threaten me, he said. To blackmail me with evidence of my business practices. We came to negotiate, Minho corrected. Same thing. Taejin moved to his desk, pressing a button. A screen descended from the ceiling. On it, photographs. Of them. Leaving their apartment. Walking in the park. At work. Amara's blood ran cold. You've been watching us, she whispered. Of course I have. Taejin's smile was cold. Did you think I'd let my sons disappear without surveillance? I've known where you were for months. Then why wait until now? Junho demanded. Because I wanted to see if you'd come back on your own. Taejin looked at his sons. I gave you time to realize your mistake. To understand that playing house in poverty isn't sustainable. We're not poor, Minho said. You're not wealthy. There's a difference. Taejin gestured at the screen. You work ordinary jobs. Live in a cramped apartment. Struggle to make rent some months. We're happy, Amara said. Are you? Taejin turned to her. Or are you just making the best of a bad situation? The question hit harder than Amara wanted to admit. Because there were hard days. Days when the money ran out before the month did. Days when she wondered if they'd made the right choice. But then she looked at Minho. At Junho. At Hope. And she knew. We're happy, she repeated firmly. Because we chose this. We chose each other. A choice you could unmake, Taejin said. Take the money. Start over. Let my sons fulfill their obligations. No. 5 million isn't enough. He named a higher number. 10 million. 20. Name your price. There isn't one, Amara said. Everyone has a price. Not for my daughter. Taejin studied her for a long moment. Then he laughed. Short. Bitter. You really love them, don't you? Both of them. Yes. And they love you. Yes. He turned to his sons. Is it worth it? Giving up everything for this arrangement? Yes, they said together. Taejin was quiet for a long time. Then he sat. For the first time since they'd arrived, he looked tired. My wife died when the boys were young, he said quietly. I raised them alone. Built this empire to give them security. Power. Protection. He looked at Minho. Then Junho. I never taught them how to be happy. Only how to be strong. Father, Minho started. Let me finish. Taejin's voice was rough. I've spent my entire life building walls. Eliminating threats. Controlling everything and everyone. He looked at Hope, still in Amara's arms. And now my sons have built something I never could. Something real. The room went silent. I don't approve, Taejin said finally. Of this relationship. Of your choices. Of how you've thrown away your heritage. Amara's heart sank. But, he continued, I'm not a fool. I see what you're willing to sacrifice. What you're willing to risk. He stood, moving to the window. Here are my terms. You keep the child. You keep each other. You stay away from the family business. And Amara? Minho asked carefully. The deportation threat disappears. I'll ensure her visa is renewed. Permanently, if necessary. Amara couldn't breathe. In exchange, Taejin continued, the evidence stays buried. You never contact me again. You don't use the Kim name. You raise that child as far from this world as possible. You're cutting us off, Junho said. I'm setting you free. Tae-jin turned back to them. No inheritance. No protection. No safety net. You wanted independence? This is what it looks like. He pulled out documents, new ones. Sign these. Legal separation from the family. You get nothing. I get my peace of mind that my granddaughter won't grow up in this world. Minho looked at Junho. Junho looked at Amara. She nodded. Where do we sign? Minho asked. 20 minutes later, they'd signed everything. Legal documents severing their ties to the Kim empire. It should have felt like losing. Instead, it felt like freedom. They were heading for the door when Tae-jin spoke again. Wait. They turned. He held out an envelope. What is this? Minho asked. Open it later. Junho took the envelope warily. Tae-jin's eyes were on hope again. May I? He hesitated. May I hold her one more time? Amara looked at the twins. They nodded. She handed Hope to her grandfather. Tae-jin held the baby carefully, studying her face. You won't remember me, he said softly. And maybe that's for the best. He kissed her forehead gently. Then handed her back. Go, he said, his voice rough. Before I change my mind. They left quickly. It wasn't until they were in the car, gates closing behind them, that Junho opened the envelope. Inside was a cashier's check. For $2 million. And a note in Tae-jin's handwriting. Asterisk for Hope's future. University. Whatever she needs. Don't contact me to refuse it. Consider it payment for the grandchild I'll never know, asterisk. Make sure she's happy. TJ. Amara started crying. Minho pulled her close. Junho just stared at the check. He let us go, Minho whispered. He actually let us go. He loves you, Amara said. In his own broken way, he loves you both. They sat in the car for a long time. Processing. Healing. Free. I did not see that coming. Did you? Comment below, did the father make the right choice? And stay tuned because the epilogue is going to warm your heart. 6 months later. Life wasn't perfect. But it was theirs. The $2 million sat in a trust fund for Hope, untouched except for what they used to move to a better apartment. 2 bedrooms instead of 1. A small balcony where they grew herbs. Space to breathe. Minho still worked as a financial consultant. He'd gotten promoted. Had clients who respected him for his skill, not his name. Junho had started his own security company. Small. Legitimate. Growing. Amara had published her first novel, a fictionalized account of a woman who fell in love with 2 brothers. It hadn't been a bestseller, but it sold enough to contribute to their household. They were building something. Not an empire. A life. And it was more than enough. Hope, no, that's not food. Amara gently extracted a crayon from her daughter's mouth for the 3rd time. Hope, now 1-year-old and walking, was into everything. Including things that definitely shouldn't go in her mouth. She gets that from you, Amara said to Junho. What? The curiosity or the stubbornness? Both. Minho laughed from the kitchen where he was actually successfully making dinner this time. Pasta. Simple. But edible. Dinner's ready, he called. They gathered at their small table, bigger than the old one, but still cozy. Hope in her high chair between Minho and Junho. Amara across from them. Family. She said a new word today, Amara announced. Both men looked up immediately. What word? Mama. Junho grinned. Finally. I was starting to think she'd only ever say dada. She loves you both, Amara said. But she needed to remember who carried her for 9 months. They ate dinner together, Hope making a mess of her pasta, both men trying to help and mostly just making it worse. It was chaotic. Loud. Messy. Perfect. After dinner, they gave Hope a bath together, a nightly routine that somehow required all 3 adults. Then story time. Minho read while Junho did the voices. Amara just watched, her heart full. When Hope finally fell asleep, they collapsed on the couch together. Amara in the middle, like always. Minho's arm around her shoulders. Junho's head on her lap. I got an email today, Minho said quietly. From? Father's lawyer. The trust fund for Hope. He added more money. Amara sat up. How much more? Another $1 million. Is he trying to buy his way back in? Junho asked. No. There was a note. Just 1 line. Minho pulled out his phone, showing them. Asterisk she turned 1 today. I remembered, asterisk. Amara's throat tightened. He's watching from a distance, she said softly. Is that okay? Junho asked. Amara thought about it. A grandfather who'd chosen power his whole life, now choosing to protect his granddaughter the only way he knew how. With money. And distance. And something that almost looked like love. Yeah, she said finally. I think it's okay. They sat in comfortable silence. Outside, the city hummed with life. But inside their small apartment, they'd built something bigger than any empire. They'd built a home. Late that night, after the twins had fallen asleep on either side of her, Amara carefully got up. She went to Hope's room, watching her daughter sleep. 1 year old. Healthy. Happy. Loved. Growing up with 2 fathers who'd given up everything for her. And a mother who'd learned to fight for her family. Amara thought about the girl she'd been 1.5 years ago. Invisible. Powerless. Alone. That girl wouldn't recognize the woman she'd become. Strong. Fierce. Protected. And protecting. She heard footsteps behind her. Minho. He wrapped his arms around her waist, resting his chin on her shoulder. Can't sleep, he whispered. Just thinking. About? How far we've come. Regrets? Amara leaned back into him. Not a single one. Junho appeared in the doorway, drawn by their voices. He joined them, his hand finding hers. The 3 of them stood there, watching Hope sleep. Their daughter. Their miracle. Their future. Thank you, Amara whispered. For what? Minho asked. For choosing me. For fighting for us. For making this impossible thing possible. Junho squeezed her hand. You chose us too. And I'd choose you again, she said. Every time. They stayed there a while longer. 3 people who defied every expectation. Every tradition. Every rule. To build something that was entirely their own. Unconventional. Imperfect. Absolutely beautiful. And theirs. Forever. And that's the conclusion of Amara, Minho, Junho, and Hope's story. From a forbidden night to an unconventional family, they proved that love doesn't follow rules, it makes its own, asterisk. If this story touched you, hit that like button and let me know in the comments what your favorite moment was. This channel is dedicated to bringing you emotional Afro-Korean love stories that break boundaries and warm hearts. Subscribe and turn on notifications because I have more stories coming. CEO romances. Enemies to lovers. Second chance stories. Forbidden love that conquers all. Drop a comment telling me what kind of story you want next, and I'll make it happen. Thank you for being part of this journey. I'll see you in the next story.